Welcome to the Valley Girls, the weekly podcast where we explore everything there is to see, do, try, eat, and experience in New York's Hudson Valley by talking to the makers, the doers, the growers, the creators, and all the unique voices of the Hudson Valley. We're telling the Hudson Valley's story one episode at a time. I'm Jenny Leifer, a lifelong Hudson Valley resident. When I'm not co-hosting Valley Girls, you'll find me talking all about health and wellness, finding the best gluten-free eats in the Hudson Valley, and giving back to the community through volunteerism and service.
And I'm Jennifer Santiago, a Hudson Valley native who has spent the past 20 years living in Texas. I'm currently splitting my time between Texas and the Hudson Valley as I'm in the process of moving back, and I'm so excited to explore and rediscover everything I love about the region, including hiking, history, and the local arts scene.
Welcome to episode 8 of Valley Girls. Earlier this week, we celebrated the 54th annual Earth Day, which is every April 22nd. And today's guests are the perfect people to talk to in honor of Earth Day. Today's episode is a bit longer than usual, but be sure not to miss Lauren Broyce from Sustainable Westchester in the second segment around the 23-minute mark of the episode, where she will share actionable ideas and easy ways we can all work toward a more sustainable future starting now.
Earth Day was the brainchild of Senator Gaylord Nelson of Wisconsin in 1969. Senator Nelson was concerned about the environment, specifically the air and water pollution that he was seeing, and he was inspired by the energy and the organization of student anti-war protests of the day. So he enlisted a young activist named Dennis Hayes to bring teach-ins to college campuses, and together they landed on April 22nd as the date because it was between spring break and final exams, and they figured that would maximize student participation. So it's appropriate that today we are talking to two people from the campus of our very own alma mater, the University at Albany, SUNY.
Julia Boyne is a senior in the Environmental and Sustainable Engineering program at UAlbany with a minor in mathematics. She has served as president of the UAlbany New York Water Environment Association student chapter and is currently serving as the VP. Julia has held internships with the City of Albany Water Department in Albany, New York, and MSK Engineers in Bennington, Vermont. She is looking forward to starting her career with Ty & Bond as a staff engineer this summer.
And Dr. Yana Liang joined the University of Albany as professor and chair in the newly minted Department of Environmental and Sustainable Engineering in the summer of 2017. Before Dr. Liang started her academic career in 2007 at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. She worked for the Environmental Protection Agency in China and the United States for more than 8 years. Her research interests include conventional environmental topics such as the remediation of organic and inorganic contaminants, water and wastewater treatment, and she's also passionate about research and development on renewable energy. Thank you, Julia and Dr. Liang, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Liang, let's start with the program that you chair at Albany. It sounds like it's one of the many innovations the university has added since our time there, when the College of Nanotechnology, Science, and Engineering didn't even exist. Can you tell us a little bit about the focus of the Department of Environmental and Sustainable Engineering and what kinds of career paths it's preparing students for?
Sure, yeah. So the college, now we call it CNSE, is new, and that was started roughly from 2015. The Department of Environmental and Sustainable Engineering was started from 2017 when I came here as a chair. So the Department of ESE is a newest addition to the college. So yeah, I'm always excited to talk about the ESE program because it's so unique. And so the US does not lack any environmental engineering programs in the nation. You hear a lot about civil and environmental engineering programs at many, many places. So environmental is already tucked behind civil. It's kind of like in the shadow of civil. But here we have just environmental, and we add sustainable to its title. So far, as of today, the ESE department is at the bachelor's level is only one in the nation. So it's truly, truly unique. And we have very unique and also brand new mindset for the programs at the bachelor's, MS, and PhD levels.
That's incredible.
So it is an environmental engineering program, but unlike the conventional environmental engineering programs elsewhere, we emphasize sustainability. So in all of the courses we offer at different levels, we place a high emphasis, we instill sustainability to the students. So they know, it's environmental engineering has been passive, reactive. There is waste, there is water we need to treat. But again, we look at from a different perspective. Instead of being passive, we have to treat this and that. We ask the students and the instructors to think from another perspective. Can we treat the waste as a resource? That is very possible. It is feasible. So that can increase the students' knowledge, their bandwidth. So then at the time they need to find a job, they have much, much more broader opportunities for them, not just the traditional environmental engineering field, because they learned all of these concept, tools, knowledge for sustainability. So they can find jobs in a variety of fields, being a sustainable engineer, process design engineer, and a lot of other disciplines.
So rather than
Fascinating.
reacting to problems and trying to
Mhm.
fix them after the fact, these students are training to bake in sustainability into engineering design from the beginning. Is that right?
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. So we encourage the students to look at the whole picture, the life cycle analysis, the techno-economic analysis, not just like in a reactive mode, but in a proactive mode.
Yes,
So
that's great.
Julia is one of your students, and I in no way mean this to be condescending, but I have a kid about your age, and you are extremely impressive and accomplished for being not even yet graduated from college. You've already got a job lined up. You've had some leadership positions. You've had some impressive internships. So tell us your story. How did you get interested in this field? I love it. I love women in STEM, but most young people don't say, I want to get involved with wastewater treatment and sustainability. So, how did you get here?
This is actually one of my favorite stories to tell. I was a senior in high school and I had started to take AP Bio, figured it wasn't for me, and started taking environmental science instead. And there was a lot of water quality testing of local lakes. And I also had a coworker whose husband is an agricultural engineer at the University of Vermont. His name is Chris Callahan. He's wonderful, also a very successful engineer. And we worked on a project together to build a remote septic pump monitoring system. So it was looking to see when the pump turned on and off. And during that experience, I realized that I was getting way too excited about a septic pump. And I figured I must be going somewhere in the right direction. So when I decided to apply to U Albany and got accepted into, at the time, it was the College of Engineering and Applied Sciences, I said, oh, I can actually do this. And just kind of kept going from there. Tried to open the door to every opportunity that was afforded to me and just kept the ball rolling.
That's so cool. So I know you've already got a job lined up as a staff engineer. What are your goals, or you don't have to know everything right now, but what are you most looking forward to trying to impact in your career?
I'm really looking forward to working with people. I was fortunate to be able to work on a lot of lead water line remediation projects. A lot of that involved going to people's houses for appointments and going into their basement to take a picture of their water line and upload it to a database so that we could say this is lead, this is non-lead. And getting my feet on the ground and being able to talk to people and seeing how, we talk about regulations, but seeing how it actually impacts people, and especially people who are located in environmental justice communities, It's not always on the forefront of their mind to fix a problem that they can't see. You can't see lead and water. And when you're focused on taking care of your kids, making every paycheck worth as much as it can be, it's not a problem that they're focused on. So you have to be focused on that for them and providing them the help and understanding where they're coming from, because it's not in the forefront of their mind, but it's something that you have the knowledge and power to help with. So working with people is going to be very exciting. Tried to be very community oriented, because I think the best work you can do is with the people around you.
That is such a profound perspective, because I think in many fields, we've got the thinkers who are on the university campuses, kind of the ivory tower stereotype, coming up with solutions to the problems, but then we've got the people who are really living every day. And so being able to take that perspective and connect those viewpoints is really the key to improving and changing anything.
Yeah, I really am so impressed. I mean, everything that you've done so far, everything that you're planning on doing, even just hearing the program, Dr. Liang, I just love the way that it's that forward thinking, like you said, that proactive thinking as opposed to reactive thinking, and also just thinking in a different way. It's such a unique way of approaching it. I know, Dr. Liang, I know one of your research interests is renewable energy. How are we doing with that? Where is New York in terms of relying on renewable energy, and how are we using it?
Well, renewable energy is a very broad term. So I think you have heard about wind, solar a lot, and there's also bioenergy. So my research has been focusing on converting various organic waste to biofuels. And that has been a very, very active research, I would say, in New York, maybe 10 or 20 years ago. New York these days, from my understanding, is not so much on bioenergy anymore. And New York's very, very big on solar and wind. Bioenergy is kind of like, I'll say, lagging behind, but still there is lots of need. We have lots of issues related to food waste and other organic waste materials. So how to handle these materials instead of just sending them off to landfills. So that is something we really need to work on. So I would say, yeah, it's going to be not just wind, not just solar. It's going to be a comprehensive solution. We need to provide all based on what the resource is. Food waste is going to be ongoing issue. We generate food waste every day from every place, so that must be resolved. And so it's going to be all of this adding together in order to replace the conventional fuel.
So
Yeah, makes sense.
earlier this week, I actually attended a lecture at the Houston Museum of Natural Science by a geologist named Dr. Scott Tinker. He has a really popular TED Talk that he gave at UT Austin, and it was called The Energy Climate Conundrum. And so he talked a lot about, global energy usage and output of emissions, and but ultimately he came back to, he's a professor, he works with students all the time, and he came back to saying, I'm really optimistic, actually. Like, I don't know the answer to how we're going to fuel the future and how we're going to get people out of energy poverty and how we're going to take care of the climate while continuing to power society. But I feel optimistic because young people are doing really good work here. And so it makes me really excited to talk to Julia, especially to kind of see that in action. So just, do you feel optimistic? What are you seeing from other students on campus, either one of you, Julia, your classmates, or Dr. Liang, your students, that makes us feel excited about the future and tackling some of these problems?
I can speak on that a little bit. I was actually at our um, environmental rally yesterday on campus, hosted by our student chapter of Democracy Matters. And it's very empowering to see people who are so passionate about this. And I think it's also very optimistic that so many people have been moving into environmental sciences, environmental studies, and environmental engineering. because they really care. Just listening to everyone give their speeches, and it was wonderful to just hear how passionate they were. Sometimes it can feel like global warming, climate change can feel like an issue that's so daunting. And one of my favorite quotes from Bill Nye illustrates the point that thinking globally is very important, but acting, it can be paralyzing. And what you can really do as an individual is act locally, and support your community, support the people that are near you, because at the end of the day, there are issues on such big scales that you have to narrow in your focus. And I think that that's what a lot of students are seeing, is that not one individual can do everything, but together, if we individually work on where we are, then together we'll get there.
Yeah, that was some of what Dr. Tinker was talking about, is that, in some ways, the news is not as bad as you think. And it's, morally irresponsible to be like doom and gloom. It's already too late to fix any of this. But then again, you don't want to, you have to balance like, hey, we got a problem, but there is stuff that we can do to fix it. And so finding that sweet spot where people feel a sense of urgency, but also a sense of agency in order to do something about the problem. And I know that you're an engineer, but I'm just going to say, and Dr. Liang would probably agree with me, you are like a natural educator. So I could absolutely see you going out there into the community and educating people or teaching students, because I just feel like you really are in that sweet spot of like, let's get motivated because we can still make a change for the better. So I like that.
Yeah, I was just going to say definitely a motivator. And I just have to say, think globally, act locally is one of my favorite quotes. I love that. So I hear you completely. Dr. Liang, do you have anything to add that you see from students? Are you seeing that this generation, I guess one thing that I see, and maybe you can speak to this as a professor, is I see a lot of older generations maybe, not to be negative, but a lot of older generations maybe have some negative things to say about the younger generations. And I too have children who are just a few years younger than Julia, and I actually see the opposite. I see this younger generation really coming forward for a lot of causes, whether it's environmental science or human rights or whatever it is. And they are really motivated and have some wonderful leaders among the generation who are stepping up. And it's really wonderful to see. So, speaking about optimism and generational leaders, do you see anything like that among your students, Dr. Liang?
Yeah, of course. So just goes back to Jennifer's comments regarding the talk sheet in tip 2. I agree completely, and I am also very optimistic regarding our energy future and regarding the global environment, the whole society. And in my mind, so every time we face challenges, there is opportunity. We can turn these challenges into opportunities. We can make things better, and we can make the environment better. So the challenges does not mean that is a showstopper, that is a roadblock. So what we train the students is to ask them to be solution providers and to do whatever that is user inspired or user needed. So that is our mindset. In terms of the new generation, we had a speaker yesterday. He's very, very old, very, very kind gentleman, and he has come to our class several times, talked to our senior capstone class. He's just so kind, so nice. And so we discussed the younger generation. In his mind,
Wonderful.
they are very, very receptive. They are receptive to recognize the issues they face, the global warming, the greenhouse gas emissions. And they recognize, and then they want to provide solutions, put their heads together to work on the problems. So that's why I'm very, very optimistic about our future.
That's so wonderful to hear. So to end on an optimistic note, how can we help? What are the things that we, as all of us who are not environmental engineering students or professors in the field, how can we help? What are the things we should all be thinking about and doing in terms of sustainability?
Well, so that is a very very big topic. So personally, for my research, I work with a lot of communities because we all live in the environment. And the environment, the water quality, the air quality affect every one of us. And then these days, I guess there's a lot of citizen science. A lot of citizens are aware of all of these environmental issues. For example, microplastics, nanoplastics, and then the PFAS issues. So that is great. I mean, you have lots of people, they are aware of the issues. They want to find the solutions for the issues, and they want to work with researchers, scientists to tackle these issues. So that is wonderful. So when I talk to these community members is we are here, we have the knowledge, we have the expertise, we have all of these facilities, and we would like to help. But again, oftentimes we read papers, we write papers, we do research. So if they can talk to us, we can see their need, so we can provide the solutions that is targeting on their needs, so that in that way we can move the needle forward faster. So we welcome all the opportunities. As a department, we work with Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, a lot of times. They have lots of things that we can help. And again, the communities, we open our doors to anyone. So we prefer to talk to the community members and then provide any help that we can.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
I think one of the biggest things that I've taken away from this program, and especially that sustainability component, is it's the 3 pillars of sustainability. It's being able to balance social, economic, and environmental issues in order to move forward. I know that I've been called a tree hugger because of being, perceived as this, environmentalist, but being able to take a step back and say, okay, being open to other people's perspectives, to say, you're concerned about the economy, you're concerned about social issues, I'm concerned about the environment, and everyone being aware of all of the components that go into that. You can have a solution that is 100% perfect for the environment, but is it economically feasible? Does it make sense for people living in that community? Being able to tie all of those together is what gets you to, kind of, as you were saying before, like that sweet spot, being able to move forward for a solution that benefits as many people as you can. So that's been one of my biggest takeaways of the program.
Well, I also hug trees, and I consider that a compliment. I am super into forest bathing, Shinrin Yoku. I talk about it all the time to anybody who wants to talk about forest bathing. So, but we are so appreciative, not just of your time here today, but also the work both of you are doing and the innovations that Albany is putting out into the community through this program. It's been really exciting to talk to you both about this, and Julia and her cohort are going to save us all. And so I'm really grateful for that. And then if you stick around, listeners, we're about to talk to Sustainable Westchester. So speaking of thinking globally and acting locally, our friend Lauren from Sustainable Westchester is going to have lots more actionable ways that you can do your part to help starting right now.
Thank you both so much for being here and for all you do.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you are feeling motivated after listening to Julia and Dr. Liang talk about the future and how optimistic they feel, and you're looking for ways that you can get more involved with taking steps towards leading a more sustainable lifestyle, our next guest is here to help. We reached out to our friends, Sustainable Westchester. Sustainable Westchester is a municipally led shared service provider that delivers climate solutions to the governments, businesses, organizations, and people of Westchester County. Through its innovative programming, extensive relationships, and effective advocacy, Sustainable Westchester has been at the forefront of regional and statewide efforts to achieve a clean energy transition, conserve natural resources, promote environmental justice, and help member communities become more prosperous, healthy, resilient, and equitable. You can check them out at sustainablewestchester.org.
Lauren Broyce is the Director of Energy Smart Homes and Grid Rewards at Sustainable Westchester. Since 2013, Lauren has led community-based campaigns to help Westchester County residents realize energy savings. Lauren is a familiar presence at numerous sustainability initiatives across Westchester County. She is a member of the Bedford 2030 Advisory Board, collaborating on events and projects such as Community Compost and the Moon Dance fundraiser. Lauren has supported the Greenlight Awards, a sustainability competition for local high school students, which allows them to showcase their solutions to environmental challenges. Lauren is a highly committed environmental educator with a strong background of influencing community behavior and policies through innovative education programs, creative marketing strategies, and strong relationships. She is passionate about environmental stewardship and dedicated to creating a more sustainable world. Welcome, Lauren. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Jenny, and thanks, Jennifer, for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, our episode is a couple days late for Earth Day, but that's okay because you mentioned there are events stretching all the way into May and ways for people to get involved year round. Can you tell us about some of what you've got going on?
Sure, yeah. I like to think of April as Earth Month, so people have opportunities to attend festivals, cleanups, nature walks, and repair cafes all month long. And like you said, we have events into May. And really, Earth Day is every day, right? So if it's that you're looking for something to do on the weekend, a family-friendly activity, we've got in Westchester County and across the Hudson Valley, tons of places to go on a nature walk or visit a nature center. We have programs that people could take advantage of as well. So if people visit sustainablewestchester.org/Earth Day 2024, we have our Earth Month calendar available, tons of events every weekend. And I think the list is over 100 events now. So lots of opportunities to learn about taking care of the earth and to also have fun. So like, for example, the Earth Day festivals often have live music, food vendors, beer vendors, and if it's a sunny day, it could be just a wonderful time. So
That's awesome.
You mentioned repair cafes. Can you talk a little bit more about that? That piqued my interest.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the repair cafe movement is awesome. That could be definitely another guest for another show. The Hudson Valley Repair Cafe, they have John Wackman was their amazing leader, really out in the forefront of this idea of let's fix what's broken and not throw it away. So repair cafes is an all volunteer-led movement. People set up at libraries, different community centers. Folks can come and meet with the fixers. So different repair cafes have a varying amount of things that can be repaired. Might be clothing, sometimes electronics, depending on the skills of the fixer. So you can bring something that's broken and leave with it repaired. So you don't have to buy something new. We keep things out of the waste stream. And also they're really fun events. Like the people that can repair and mend items are super talented. And it's really quite enjoyable to sit with them and see them repair something.
That is so very cool. I remember when I was a kid in the 80s, I remember going with my parents to take our TV set to get repaired or our vacuum cleaner to get repaired. And nobody thinks of that. Now it's usually cheaper and easier to just toss it and buy a new one. And so this has been a theme that's actually been coming up with some of the guests we've talked to. On episode 4, we talked to Susanna and LV from Found and Fixed Hudson Valley, and they refinish solid wood furniture with the goal of keeping furniture out of landfills and, us not having to buy cheaply made flat pack furniture anymore. And on episode 10, we're going to be talking to Leah Watkins, who is opening a business in Kingston called Folk Refillery and Supply. So it's all about reusing the containers, not having more plastic packaging. So I really love that. And, right to repair is a big thing in the tech community because certain vendors, not naming names, but I'm looking at you, Apple, make it so that you really can't. It's not, you can't obtain the parts or you can't access the parts that need repairing. So I love that movement. That's really exciting. Also, a little bit off script, I didn't tell you I was going to ask about this, but when Jenny was reading your bio, also it caught my attention about the composting program. So composting is something I feel really constantly guilty that I don't do because I have lots of food scraps and I know I should do it, but it seems hard to get started. Do you have any really simple advice for composting?
Sure. Composting is like when people ask me what's my hobby, sometimes I want to say composting and then I say, no, that's way too weird. I can't tell people that.
That's okay. Weirdos
But
are our people. You came to the right place.
absolutely.
well, then I'm in the right place.
Absolutely.
So, composting is easy and fun. In Westchester County, many of the composting initiatives have been lifted up by local sustainability committees, establishing different ways to compost in their municipality. And then recently, over the past year or so, Westchester County has been able to streamline the pickup of the compostable materials to make it more affordable for the municipalities to buy into the program. But for a person that's in an apartment or a house, there's a few different options. So the first option is you could have a backyard compost bin. If you have a space in your yard, you could buy an earth machine, kind of looks like a big trash can. You could buy a tumbler. Sometimes people get stuck thinking like, which one should I purchase? Which type of backyard composter? But they all work really well. So you could do that in your backyard, and that will just accept like fruits, veggies, bread. You're not going to put any like meat or fat or bones in the backyard bin. That's because it's not getting to a high enough temperature to safely biodegrade. So option one, backyard composting. For me, I live in an apartment in White Plains. I don't have a place for a backyard bin. So I do community compost, which means I have my food scrap collection pail on my counter, and then I drive that over to different pickup points in Westchester County. There's all different spots depending on where you live. Like for me, I drop it off in the White Plains DPW recycling yard. Sometimes I drop it off in front of the Greenberg Town Hall. They have bins there. And I just think about like, when am I going to drive by those places? I'll toss my compost pail, my food scrap collection pail into my car, and then I'll drop it off. So it's not that messy, especially if you if you drop off your compost once a week. It doesn't smell too bad. You can use the compostable bag, so it keeps it all nice and neat. But I'm not going to lie, if you don't drop off your food scraps often, like if you're keeping them on your counter for 2 weeks, funny enough, it doesn't really smell, but when the lid is not open, but it gets a little drippy. Not so
Yeah,
nice.
but the drippy stuff is the good stuff, right? That's the compost tea. Isn't that what you're trying to get to?
Well, at that point, it's not yet compost tea, but compost tea is great for the garden. So the third option for composting, depending on where people live, is you could have your compost picked up like you have your trash and your recycling picked up. And that's an opt-in program. Certain municipalities have it, not many, but there's also private companies that are able to pick up your compost. So that's very popular in the river towns and some other municipalities in Westchester. So backyard, drop it off yourself, or pay to have somebody pick it up. 3 options. And I think composting is so important. If there's something you want to start this Earth Month, it's composting. You don't have to do it all. You could just do maybe veggies and breads or something like that. I find it's really easy to have the compost bin on the counter too as I'm cooking. Like you don't have to walk over to the trash. It's all right there. It's easier in one place. And the why behind this. So do you guys know, I guess I'm not sure for the entire Hudson Valley, but in Westchester County, do you know where the trash goes?
I don't.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, not a lot of people realize, you toss it in the bin and you think, oh, it goes away. No. In Westchester County, if you're tossing, whatever you're tossing in that bin is going to be incinerated in Peekskill. It's being burned at the Wheelabrator Waste to Energy facility. We don't need to be burning our food scraps because that's full of water. The food scraps have a lot of nutrients in them that when it's burned, those nutrients are lost. When it's composted, those nutrients are able to be returned to the soil. So it's a win-win. When I see food scraps in the trash, it makes me depressed. They don't need to be there. We've got a better system, so let's use it.
So
That's so great.
yeah, and that's a fairly simple, actionable thing that people can start right away. But even if people aren't ready to get into composting just yet, everyone loves to save money. And I know that energy savings is one of your areas of expertise. So talk to us about how we are helping sustainability initiatives while also lowering our bills.
Yeah, so if you're somebody that just kind of wants to like sign on the dotted line, get it done, and know that you are helping the planet, Sustainable Westchester offers a few different programs. And the first one I'll talk about is a demand response program called Grid Rewards. This is for people that are served by Con Edison. So New York City and Westchester customers have Con Edison. And because Con Edison installed smart meters, so people's energy is being able to be measured down to a much smaller time increment, the utility is able to know if you've decreased your energy usage. So the idea here of demand response and grid rewards through the Con Ed Smart Energy Usage Program is that folks can be paid to reduce their electricity at peak times. So right now, the utility grid peaks in the summer when everyone's running their air conditioning. The bad news there is that when the utility grid is at the peak, the utility must turn on what they call peaker power plants, which are the oldest power plants, the most heavily polluting, and guess what? Located in environmental justice communities. So collectively, instead of having a peaker plant turn on, spew noxious chemicals into an environmental justice community, and pay this peaker power plant millions of dollars, we can collectively reduce our electricity at certain times in the summer to prevent that pollution and to get paid for it. So I do this program in my apartment. I get an alert on my phone. Tomorrow's going to be a Grid Rewards event day. I will pre-cool my space. I'm not running the dishwasher or the laundry or big appliances during my couple-hour period. And then towards the end of the year, a check will come in the mail for my participation. So it's really fun to do it in the summer, and the app is useful year-round. You can look at the app and check the carbon intensity of the energy grid. So for me, I sign into it, I check it and see, hey, is now a good time to run the laundry? No, the energy grid has a lot of carbon emissions on it right now. I'll wait till later. So helps build energy literacy. You just sign up. It's quite easy to sign up. You download the app, you type in your Con Ed account number, and then you'll be ready to participate this summer. We are encouraging people to sign up for Earth Month. If you sign up by the end of April, you'll make more money from the app than you would if you signed up in the middle of the summer. But if you do this and you're talking to your friend and you're having a Grid Rewards event day, your friend could sign up too, and the carbon emission reduction will still be really impactful. So it has an outsized impact to reduce your usage during peak times.
That's very cool.
And that's my plug.
So I know that this is specifically for Con Ed, so for Westchester, New York, and you're not affiliated, further upstate, like with Central Hudson. Do you know offhand if they have any program like that?
It all comes down to the smart meters. So right now across NYSEG territory, which covers much of Putnam and a little bit of Westchester, they're in the process of installing the smart meters. And I think that's probably a plan for the future across all the utilities. And there's different components of demand response. If someone is charging their electric vehicle at night, that's demand response. If they are basically using electricity better time, that's a version of demand response.
Wow, that's really great. So in the last few years, we have tried to do other things, not necessarily, energy savings for sure, but also just trying to improve our energy efficiency and go green. So we've installed solar panels for electricity because we own the house. This past year, my husband had worked with a company where we had ground source heat pump, geothermal.
Whoa.
Yeah, we had geothermal for heating and cooling installed. We don't yet have the solar battery storage just yet for our solar energy, for the electricity, but we're looking to get that in the future. But, it's just interesting because as you're talking about the demand response, it's just even just for solar right now, how we have it is we still using the solar, we export more than we import, right? So we have that net meter through Central Hudson for ours. And, I'm sure you've heard it's been in the news. A lot of people are having problems with their bills through Central Hudson, and there's been a lot of problems with that. And we installed the solar just before all of that happened. So as friends of ours and neighbors, they're getting all of a sudden $700, $800, $1,000 bill. It was like all of a sudden overnight, we had like credits. We had like a $20, $40 credit. Now because we don't have the battery storage just for the use of the line, it's about $20 a month we have to pay, but we still typically have a higher export than import. And my husband, with his little app, he loves it. He can look and see, and that's what made me think of it. He'll see and I'll say, don't use the washer at night, wait until the sun is out, because we can be using our energy instead of using the influx from the lines, just use it when we're using the solar energy. So, that is very cool. But yeah, we've replaced the windows, we got more insulated. What's the other thing he did? Oh, the hot water heater. We got a hybrid hot water heater, and it's an air source heat pump hot water heater. But the whole other reason I brought this up is
the money savings part of it is that we have gotten, although yes, we have loans out for the installation of the major systems like the geothermal and the solar. We got 100% of our money back for the hot water heater.
That
100%
happens
of it
fast.
back. And the geothermal and the solar, because we did it 2 separate years, both years our tax refund was huge, and you can just put that right back towards the loans that you take out for the installation, or not, and just continue paying that off. But that is another thing that it's, people see that it's like, oh, that's a ridiculous amount of money to put something like that in. But between NYSERDA and there are other incentives, look into it, because we didn't think we'd be able to afford to put those things in. But there are definitely huge incentives, especially with NYSERDA, federal and state incentives for things like that, for sure.
And Jenny, did you have your geothermal system in for the winter, or has it been providing heating or cooling?
Yeah, we had it installed it was supposed to be installed for last summer, but it ended up in the middle of the summer. So a little hot before in the beginning of the summer, but it finally came in the middle of last summer. So it's been in through this past winter. It was in. And let me tell you, the efficiency of it, we used to have our feet up. It was, first of all, the first winter that I did not have to have oil deliveries. I was like celebrating. It was so wonderful to be completely off oil. But the efficiency, we used to have to keep the heat up pretty high, and relatively high compared to some people. And now it's like, if it's above 65, 66, it's hot in the house. It's such a more efficient, clean heat. So it's really wonderful. We're very happy with it.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think this is an appropriate place to just kind of acknowledge that being able to do a lot of these things is a privilege. And I wanted Lauren to just ask you really quickly, you mentioned several times environmental justice, and that was something that Julia talked about earlier as well. So for people who maybe are new to thinking about this or have heard the phrase environmental justice, but they don't really know what that means, can you kind of give us a quick intro?
Yes. So I think when we're thinking about climate justice, we want to think that resources are being distributed fairly. And we also want to think about who's bearing the brunt of environmental pollution. And we see that played out. Like, where are the major highways? Where are power plants located? Where is the wastewater facility being built? And we know the answer: in communities of color, in communities of lower socioeconomic status. So when we're looking at the clean energy transition, it's really important to think about environmental justice so that the benefits of these investments are also shared equally, if not more, with communities that are environmental justice. The New York State calls them disadvantaged communities. So 30% of the money in the CLCPA package has to go towards serving environmental justice communities. And that's really important because they need that extra investment. We need to make sure that they get it. And that's the environmental justice aspect of sustainability, I think, is one of the most interesting ones to me, because we all want to have a better planet for our future generations and for ourselves, right? We don't want to be breathing polluted air. I think a lot of people thought about that during the wildfires last summer, but that was maybe the first time that some people thought about air quality. So in Westchester County, it's not like there's walls built up between certain areas, right? We are all suffering from, actually, the American Lung Association gives Westchester County's air quality a failing score, the letter F. So when we're looking at improving policy and taking advantage of these programs, we're not only helping our wallets and we're living more comfortably, but we are helping to make a cleaner community that's healthier for more people. So I really like Jenny's story of her upgrade in her home. And I think people don't realize what's on the table through NYSERDA, also federal tax credits. There's a 30% rebate on geothermal. So Sustainable Westchester is available to help people kind of go through this process. And Sustainable Westchester is a member of the NYSERDA Regional Clean Energy Hub. So the Mid-Hudson Valley is led by Cornell Cooperative Extension of Dutchess County. We have an energy advisor in every county of the Mid-Hudson region. So the 7 counties are covered. You can call the number and speak to an energy advisor that'll help you figure out which technology is best for your house. How do you find a contractor? What rebates are out there? What are the utilities offering? And kind of just, if there's paperwork involved, we can help with that. So this is a service that's available for free to people. And even though we say
That's
free,
wonderful.
we're all paying for these programs when we're paying for energy. So we might as well
Yes.
take advantage, I think.
That's right. And I think a point is also it's not just the tax refunds or the rebates you get, but we have very little out of pocket up front. Now, of course, the companies, whether it's the solar companies or the geothermal companies, of course, they're going to help you get funding because they're selling you their systems. But they were very upfront about outsourcing if you wanted other companies or other organizations to help you with that, like you're talking about, Lauren, to sit down with you and figure out other sources of funding where knowing that you are going to get a good portion of it for one of the systems. It was like we got over half of it back in the refunds. So, I mean, it really was not as much. It seemed so overwhelming. Like, how can people afford this? But really, it was very little money out of our pockets. They helped us figure out how to get that, and then we got most of it back for one of them. So, it is accessible. It's just you just have to do your research, and there are people out there to help you figure that stuff out. And then just kind of going backwards for 1 second, even the compost, I just want to make a point. What you said about the different ways you can do it, I think it's so fascinating that there are communities who are putting that out there where there are the drop-off sites and there are pickup, because I think that would really help tremendously. I haven't really seen that so much up here in Ulster County. I'm sure there are some communities that are doing it, just not directly in mine. But, I remember even when I was in Italy and it was like on the streets, you've got the trash, the recycling, and the compost, and it was just all in a row, and it goes under the sidewalk. So there's no receptacle there. You just dropped it in, and it goes in, and it collects it under the sidewalks. There's a whole system, but compost is part of that. So you just walked out your front door of your apartment building or wherever, and you just drop the compost in, and that makes it so much easier for people to buy in and so much easier for people to participate. I'm fortunate enough that my parents live across the street, and they have a beautiful garden, and they compost. They have a tumbler in their backyard. And so I can do just a compost bin, and I can bring my compost just right across the street and bring it to them. Because I don't have anything in my backyard for it. It's so much easier when they will just come and pick it up with your trash. That's really helpful for people to get into it when the communities will do that for people. So that's great. That's really great. So what about you personally? How did you become involved in this? I mean, you're so passionate about it. I love the way you speak about it. You're so well versed in all of this, and I can see how passionate you are. I love that composting is your hobby. How did you become involved in the first place and working on sustainability and conservation? And before we let you go, is there anything else that you want listeners to know about Sustainable Westchester?
Sure. Yeah. So I think I've always really been passionate about taking care of the environment. And when I was at SUNY New Paltz, I was the campus recycling coordinator because that was like right before the sustainability movement got really big. So recycling was still the it thing. And for me, I think it's about having equal access and taking care of the planet. There's no need to waste when we can recycle or compost. There's programs out there like demand response. We can lower our air conditioning to prevent asthma in environmental justice communities. There's simple actions that we can take if we educate ourselves that will help improve and reduce carbon emissions. So I'm passionate about it because I want to see environmental justice. I want to see us celebrating Earth Day every day and appreciating the place we live and not taking it for granted because we're lucky to live here. Like you were saying, Jennifer, we're lucky to be able to do these upgrades in our home and to take advantage of these programs. So why not do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to do a plug. So Sustainable Westchester is available as a resource for folks at any time. Even if you live elsewhere in the Mid-Hudson region, we can connect you to an energy advisor in the other counties. We're able to help people with geothermal, air source heat pumps, a home energy assessment, community solar, demand response, zero waste. The list goes on and on, clean energy. So we're here. There's tons of events coming up. We have a trivia night Thursday in White Plains at Wolf and Warrior Brewery. We'll be sipping some beers and answering trivia questions about sustainability. We're looking for volunteers to get involved with our organization. So no matter what your skill is, maybe you like to write, maybe you like to graphics or talk to people, no matter what your skill is, you can fit into the environmental movement. We would love to have your participation. And thank you, Jenny and Jennifer, for taking your podcasts and putting the spotlight on sustainability. We really appreciate it. So thanks for having me today.
We're happy to do it. We love talking about this stuff. And I bet there are people listening right now who are saying, actually, here in Tivoli, we have this community composting station. Or, yeah, we're doing this over here in Ellenville. So, anyone who's listening who's thinking, we're doing this stuff, we're not in Westchester, but we're doing it, let us know. Comment on our social media. Go to our website, valleygirlspodcast.com, and there's contact forms there. And we'll continue to share out resources on our website where this is being done in communities all over the Hudson Valley.
Yeah, it's all over. And it's not just Sustainable Westchester. There's also Sustainable Hudson Valley, New Yorkers for Clean Power, Climate Reality Project, Sierra Club. The list of groups working on sustainability in the Hudson Valley goes on for pages and pages. So people can reach out. If you don't know who they are, we'll be happy to connect you.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So please let us know so we can, if you don't know if it's in your community, let us know so we can share it with others. We'll share all these resources in our blog post. But again, as Lauren mentioned, if you're not sure and you don't see it on our resources, you can reach out to Sustainable Westchester and they can point you in the right direction as well. So thank you so much, Lauren. I really appreciate this. This was so educational, so interesting, and so helpful. As you mentioned, we'll share all the resources. We'll also share all the events that you mentioned, anything coming up in that blog post at valleygirlspodcast.com and on our Instagram page at valleygirlspodny. Thank you also to Dr. Liang and Julia Boyne of UAlbany for being here today to celebrate Earth Day with us. We only have one Earth, and while we can't cover it all in one episode, we've managed to take a huge swath of Hudson Valley from the Capital District all the way down to Westchester. So thank you for being here with us today. And remember, think globally, act locally.
And vote with your dollar.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you to all our listeners. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to help support the Valley Girls, please follow our podcast from our show page on whichever platform you listen from. Leave a rating and review, and please spread the word and share our podcast with others. We really appreciate your support. To stay up to date with the Valley Girls and for more content, you can find us at valleygirlspodcast.com, and you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Links to all our social media accounts are in the show notes. And you can also connect to them through our homepage at valleygirlspodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
The music for this episode is by Robert Burke Warren, entitled Painting a Vast Blue Sky, and can be found on his album Redheaded Friend, available on iTunes and Spotify, and at the link in the show notes.